there, this is Danielle Dunlop with a video for Possum Stems, and today I'm going to create a fall themed shaker card with the new Fall Wreath stem set. It comes with some really sweet sentiments as well. And to start my card, I stamped the wreath on my cardstock, and then I fussy cut out the inner piece, which is going to be my shaker window. What I prefer to do when it comes to coloring a wreath or a bunch of flowers is starting with the greens. And when I do that, I get a better overview of how I want to have everything else colored. The pumpkin in this wreath is going to be an easy one. It's going to be orange, but when I have a lot of flowers, I like to get a better idea of how I want all the colors separated all over the wreath. So I'm starting here with YG17 as my darkest green, and then YG05 for my middle, and YG03 for my lightest green. And I'm just going to cover all the leaves that I want to be green in my wreath. Because it's a fall theme, I also going to do some more yellow and orange leaves. I think that will be a great fit, also matching to the orange pumpkin later on. But for now, I'm going to have all the green leaves covered here. Next, I'm going to work on the pumpkin, so more like on the more obvious colors. I'm having the YR09 as my darkest orange. So I'm laying down the shades here in those grooves of the pumpkin. And once I have my darkest shadow down, I'm going to use YR04 as my middle orange. And then finally, I'm going to blend it all out with my lightest orange, which is Y38. You've seen me using this color combination a lot, but it definitely is my favorite combination for orange, especially if you need that super bright orange like a pumpkin is. Next, I'm going to work on the sunflower, and I picked some yellows. But thinking about a sunflower, I realized there's actually quite some brown tones in there as well. So I started here with a Y15, putting down a layer of some darker at the base of those leaves. Then I went in with a Y13, which is going to be my middle yellow color. And I'm going to blend out that darker Y15. And then I'm going to blend it all out with the lightest yellow, my Y11. And then finally I used some Y21. And I went back in at the base of those leaves to make it a little more brown. And then I used some E27 and E23 to make the center of that flower entirely brown. I'm continuing with some E20s to color the acorns, and I'm using a mix of E25, E23. I'll probably use some E27 in there as well. Oh, and E21. And I wanted those bottom pieces to be a little more light, and those top pieces, maybe caps is what you can call them, those are going to be a little darker. But I'm still using the same E20s so that both those pieces are still matching with their brown tones. Next, I'm going to add some reds in here. And what I like to do with a wreath is create a visual triangle. So I pick 3 points in the wreath where I add the reds. And then to make it interesting for the eye, you create this visual triangle. So there's this flower at the right top, and those berries a little lower on the right, and then also a bunch on the lower left. And I'm using my R29 for my darkest red, R35 for the middle, and R32 for my lightest red. I did the same thing with the visual triangle for the yellows. So I already have that sunflower at the top left. And now I'm going to use the same colors, Y11, Y13, and Y15 on the leaf here on the right. And off camera, I also colored that leaf at the left bottom in those same colors. So we also have a yellow visual triangle. Now I'm back on working on orange again. So I have that pumpkin at the lower right of my wreath. And now I'm going to do a leaf here at the top left. And later on, I'm adding some more orange. It's just a process of figuring out what is going to be which color, but trying to create a visual triangle really helps to get all the colors balanced out. I figured the berries in red were just very minimal in red. So at the left bottom here, I added another red leaf. I decided to play with some different green tones, so I added some leaves here and there with my YG90s. And YG90s are a completely different green than the bright greens that I used earlier. It's just really nice to give a nice mix of greens there in a bouquet or in a wreath. I decided to add some purple to this wreath as well. I think it goes really well with all these yellows, oranges, and reds. So I'm using my Fee 12, Fee 15, and Fee 17 for this flower. And off camera, I also colored one of the flowers at the top in purple. And then I had one flower left right here at the top, and I didn't want to add in another bright color, so I decided to go with my YG90s again. Doesn't hurt to add some more greens to your bouquet or to your wreath, and it's just a nice neutral color. And honestly, YG90s, they may seem like a little dirty colors, but honestly, they're my favorite dirty colors in the whole Copa collection. So this cardstock where I stamped and colored on is also going to be my card front with the shaker window. And I wanted to give it a little bit of a vintage feel, so I ink blended with Distress Ink Scattered Straw all around the edges, and I blended it in a little bit towards the inside so it's not just white bright cardstock. This is my card base, and I didn't want that one to be super bright white either. So very lightly I ink blended that with the Distress Ink Scattered Straw as well, because the center of this you're going to see through that shaker window. So I put double-sided tape all around the window of my card front, and I always make sure that I have tape very close to the edges of the window so that sequins cannot slide out or get in between there. And I'm just using some package wrapper instead of acetate to create that window here. And then I'm going to put my double-sided tape again all the way around that window. And if you do it quite close around your window, then you don't need to use that many shaker bits either, because you do not have to cover it to go all the way around your card front. So you make the area basically very small where your shaker bits can move around, and that way you need way less. And also make sure that all your pieces of double-sided foam tape are connecting so that your shaker bits cannot get out of that little area you're creating there. I use my anti-static tool before I add my sequins. And now first I want to show you the 3 of the new sequin mixes by Possum Stamps that came with the autumn and fall release. First was the Autumn Bliss, then the Rotten Pumpkin, and Wicked Potion. All 3 are amazing for anything Halloween or fall. For my card today, I'm using the Autumn Bliss mix. And I think those colors are great to go with the colors in the wreath at the front of the card. Then I'm going to remove the backings of my double-sided tape. and I'm adding my card base to the card front. Now it's time for the ultimate test. See if everything is shaking around. And I just totally love how this one turned around. But then I realized that I should have done the sentiment first. So when I use foam tape on a card, I try to remember to stamp my sentiment before I use foam tape, because it can be a little tricky sometimes to get it properly stamped, to get a good print from your stamp, because the foam tape is often not equal all the way behind it. As you can see, the word grateful went pretty okay. The last part of the word wasn't as crisp as I wanted to, so I just did it a couple more times. When you use foam tape, it's also harder to use your magnets, so that's why I'm trying to lock my card in here, in that corner, in between the magnets, instead of using my magnets at the top or on top of my card. The words "for you" stamped pretty well too. I did it a couple times. So yeah, it's easier to do it before you use foam tape on your card front, but it worked out well anyway. I want to thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. I hope you really enjoyed this video. Please hit that like and subscribe button. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye bye.